Hello everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to GOV360. We know that the United States was designed by the Founding Fathers to be a democratic, republican form of government, which means we follow rule of law. A republic, in order for it to function, though, depends on the participation of the people in selecting representatives that end up in the power positions to pass laws. So if we're to be a functional representative republic and follow rule of law, we really need to pick our representatives. And we have a critical problem in America, a real crisis where we're not picking our representatives. Our studies here at GOV360 show that about 90% of the citizens are not picking the representative that ends up going to Washington. So if you live in a district where turnout is about 10% in these congressional primary elections, you realize that you're not picking the representative that ends up in Washington, so who does? Now, this is very important as we look at this interview that I'm going to show you from 1967 Meet the Press interview with Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., where he talks about the vital, critical importance of following the rule of law and how the rule of law played an important role in the civil rights movement. And the other point that I want to make is that not only are we not picking our representatives, and we have a real crisis where 90% of us are not involved in picking the representatives in Washington, and they end up doing things that 90% of us are unhappy with, but we also have this brewing anarchy in America, and Dr. King touches on the subject of anarchy in the interview. Anarchy is really not a solution to any of our problems because we have a system that was set up where we have 435 representatives, we have 50 states, each state has a legislative body that's elected. So if we don't vote, and we depend on guns to promote freedom or democracy, that's not going to work because we can't go and shoot all 435 representatives and all 50 governors and shoot everybody in the executive branch. It just doesn't work. It's just not a realistic idea, and that's proof that the Founding Fathers didn't set the Second Amendment up as a way to do that. What they did is they set up a system where we can get rid of the 435 representatives every 2 years by voting. And like I say, 90% of us currently are not doing that, and that's just the way the system was set up. We have every 2 years we have elections where we can fire all 435 representatives and replace them with different people, and if they don't do their jobs next time, we fire them again and get new people. We're not doing that. Instead, we're going around depending on anarchy and apathy, and we're just not participating in a system of representative Republican government that Dr. King talks about. And when he touches on the subject of anarchy, it really hits home because here at GOV360 we're finding that there's widespread anarchy brewing in the United States of America, and it's just not a solution. So take a look at this interview, reflect on the 50th, the 50 years since the I Have a Dream speech, and really think about the participation that is important, not voting in presidential elections, but it's more important almost than anything else. It's more important to vote in congressional elections where 90% of us are not voting currently or not participating currently. So we really need to change that. If we change that one thing, then we could really get this country back on the right track to being a functional, representative, Republican form of self-governing. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you've learned something today, and I hope you'll learn something from watching this brief interview clip with Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.
Dr. King, to go back to the question of civil disobedience, some of your strongest critics have charged that you yourself are responsible for part of the urban violence that afflicts us recently in the riots, in that by advocating civil disobedience, the logical and inevitable effect of that is civil disorder, that people who have no respect for law and authority then take things in their own hands. How do you answer such charges?
Well, I answer it by saying it's a totally absurd charge. I have never advocated anarchy. I have never advocated lawlessness. I have never advocated violence. I have never advocated arson. I've never advocated sniping or looting. I've only said, and I still believe this, that if one finds a law unjust, then he has a moral responsibility to take a stand against that law, even if it means breaking that law. But I've also gone on to say that he must break that law openly. He must not seek to defy the law. He must not seek to annihilate the law in the same sense that you would find the Klan doing, but he must do it openly and cheerfully and in the right spirit. And it is still my conviction that he who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and willingly accepts the penalty for breaking it is at that moment expressing the very highest respect for law. So anyone who says that what we've done in the civil rights movement in the South, for instance, created atmosphere for riots is misreading history and certainly dishonestly interpreting everything that we've done.